Hi, um, welcome to the human activity recognition dataset discussion. So basically in this particular discussion, I have taken out the human activity recognition dataset. So let's get a brief introduction about this dataset. So this dataset is basically built from the recordings of around 30 different participants performing activities of their daily life while carrying out the waist mounted smartphone with all the inertial sensors as part of the smartphone. So the basic objective of this particular data set is to clearly kind of classify the activities based on the metrics. So the experiments again have been carried out with 30 different volunteers between the age of 19 to 48, so that we are kind of taking all the variations across all the different age groups. So each person again performing 6 different activities ranging from walking upstairs, downstairs, sitting, standing, laying, weighing the smartphones. So this smartphone is basically Samsung Galaxy S2. And for each of the record in this data set that you could see, the information that's been collected is the triaxial acceleration that's been from the accelerometer, and then the triaxial angular velocity that's been from the gyroscope sensor. And basically we have around 561 to 562 different feature vectors across the time and frequency domain variables. So you could see that each of these feature which been prefixed with T is a time domain and F is a frequency domain. And then the activity label, which is our target variable that we have to predict. And then the identifier of the subject or the participant who carried out this experiment is also part of this particular data set. So the data set on a whole has around 10,299 records with 562 to 563 different features that's been part of the data set. So let's get a sneak peek into the data set. So I just wanted to know what is the, out of these 562 features that we have collected, how many of them were from the accelerometer, how many of them were gyroscope. So that's where, so this particular slide will help us to figure out there were like predominantly there were accelerometer based readings, and then we also have a gyroscope based readings as well. And in order to figure out whether this whole data set has been balanced or not, so I've just taken the target variable activity and kind of plotted a count plot in order to figure out what is the data set mixture in terms of the counts. So it was ranging all the way from 1944 to 1406. So more or less, I could say this is basically the kind of balanced data set so there are no transformations as such required on this data set, at least with respect to the target variable. Then there was an interesting thing. So we know that there are around 6 different target variable or activities. However, this can be again kind of subclassified into 2 different sort of an activities. One is the static activity and the dynamic activity. What I mean by static is where you don't have a huge set of motion with respect to the sensors, be it an accelerometer or the gyroscope. Whereas with the dynamic, there is a lot of variations in the sensors, I would say. So here I would say that sitting, standing, and laying can be categorized as static, and walking upstairs, downstairs, and the walking as such on a maybe plane surface would be categorized as a dynamic. So based on iterating over all the variables, we were able to see that the T-body magnitude of accelerometer magnitude mean is one such feature which were able to help us to clearly distinguish between the static as well as the dynamic activity. So we could see that here anything less than 0.5 can be classified as the static activity, and anything more than 0.5 can be of dynamic activity. So here you could see what is the static set of activities and what is the dynamic set of activities. And then we used basically a box plots in order to figure out or distinguish the activities. So we wanted to clearly identify or pick up that particular feature or a metric which can help us. So just for the sake of explaining about this box plot, I've just taken these 2 different metrics. For example, the angle the x-axis with a gravity mean, we could able to clearly distinguish that the laying activity is showing up maybe around more than zero point 0.5 of the 50th percentile or the mean. Similarly, if you could see with T-body acceleration, accelerometer magnitude mean, we're able to see that the 50th percentile or the mean of walking downstairs metric has been more than zero point 0.0. So this can basically help us to clearly distinguish between what are the sort of activities and that can be helpful in order to clearly distinguish among the various activities that we have. And then as we all know that it's been a huge set of features, around 562 different features, but in order to go forward and do any sort of a prediction, this is not a huge set of features that will be valuable in order, because there might be various of these features which is kind of repetitive or has a very less variance. So we can use a dimensionality reduction principle and the models like PCA, principal component analysis. So that is what I've used here in order to uh, basically draw the knee plot and figure out where exactly you could see the most variation. So I could say around 95% we were able to pick up, and then we were able to reduce the overall 562 features into almost hoping 969 different features, having 95% of the variance explained still in the data set. So overall with PCA we were able to get to this 69 features. So as we know that we have huge data set, and it's a multi-dimensionality data set. So in order to visualize them in terms of the clusters, we wanted to use the t-stochastic neighbor embedding methodology, or the model, the TSNE model, in order to visualize this whole data set into the 2D space. So that's what I've done here, and we could clearly see that most of these activities are kind of separable, except the fact that the sitting and standing activities are kind of overlapping in this activity or in this region. So apart from that, you could see that laying or walking upstairs, downstairs have been kind of separable, compared to what it is there for the sitting and standing. So just keep this in mind so that it will be useful for us to analyze the features or the results going forward. And again, I just wanted to kind of see if it's a way that we can kind of see the pattern among all these 6 different activities for across all the participants ranging from 1 to 30. So what I did is I just took a laying pattern or the activity, and then we could see these are the activities or these are the pattern for each of these participants from 1 to 30. So there's no significance in this color coding that I've used. It's just for the distinguishing between each of these participants. So don't take anything from the colors that we have used here. So here we could see that for the participant 1, this is the pattern that he has been laying out. So it's a different set of metrics that is showing up this particular pattern for each of these participants for the laying activity. So overall, I've used, coming to the models that I've used in order to predict, I've used 6 different models with cross-validation of around 5 as the cross-validator. And then I've used basically the decision tree classifier, random tree classifier, random forest classifier, the k-nearest neighbors classifiers, and the SPC with both linear and RBF, in fact, and then Gaussian naive Bayes, and then logistic regression. So among all of them, I could see that SVC with linear and RBF are pretty much the same. The red bar over here signifies for the test data set, and the blue signifies the training data set. So somewhere around this point, we could see that SVC and logistic regressions being the models with better accuracy. So all these, that the thing on the y-axis that you're seeing is basically the accuracy score. So coming to the model evaluation. So as as we could see from the heat map over here, that the standing and sitting are the ones which, so again, just to kind of give a clarity on what x-axis and y-axis is. The y-axis being the true values, and the true values, and the x-axis being the predicted values. So we could see that the sitting and standing has some sort of a mispredictions that's been happening across. So that's what we could see from our the TSNE cluster data, that sitting and standing is kind of overlapping, which kind of leads to this sort of anomaly, I would say. So apart from that, I think pretty much we could see that the accuracy have been pretty good, reaching all the way till 90 to 95% with SVC or the logistic regression. So I think with this, I'm done with my data set. So thanks for your time.